Well, look who just made the Pentagon break into a nervous sweat. Look who in their pajamas managed to do what it takes Navy SEALs decades to master. You, a beautiful, untrained, accidentally lethal masterpiece. And now they're studying you. Not because you enlisted, not because you went through some top-secret training, but because you did something so unexpected, so flawlessly natural, that it made their entire system glitch. Picture this. Somewhere inside a heavily guarded and classified facility, there's a room full of decorated veterans watching footage of you. These are people who have spent lifetimes perfecting the art of combat psychology, tactical precision, and strategic dominance. They've endured years of harsh training and endless drills to achieve their mastery. Yet here they are, watching you execute their most advanced maneuvers, casually, effortlessly, while eating cereal, scrolling through your phone and half asleep. And in that room, the silence is deafening. They never saw this coming. They believed they held the monopoly on such skill. They believed it could only be forged through years of brutal conditioning, breaking a person down to rebuild them into something formidable, running classified programs in million-dollar facilities. They thought it required drill sergeants screaming at you at 4 a.m., crawling through mud, surviving Hell Week, and earning stripes through sanctioned suffering. But then you appeared, completely untrained, and demolished their entire concept of what human capability could be. And here's the part they'll never want to admit. You weren't taught this. It's not something they can replicate, package, or control. It's something that lives in you, raw, instinctive, and beyond their reach. You were born with it. While they spent years learning to suppress their instincts, you were out in the wild sharpening yours. While they followed strict protocols, you were creating new ones from raw survival. While they were proudly earning badges, you were earning scars, each one a lesson deeper than anything a military manual could teach. In their textbooks, they call it situational awareness, something that takes months to drill into a recruit. For you, it's as natural as breathing. That gut-deep sense when someone's watching you. That subtle shift in energy when danger slips into the room. They train endlessly and spend fortunes trying to give their soldiers that edge. You've carried it since childhood. A gift or maybe a curse from the hell that raised you. Think back. Remember the time you knew exactly what someone was going to do before they even moved? That wasn't luck. That was advanced behavioral prediction. Special forces trained for years to read micro-expressions, body language, energy shifts. But you do it without conscious effort. You can see the attack in someone's eyes before their muscles twitch. You can hear the betrayal in their tone before the words take shape. You know the escape routes before you even understand why you'll need them. They have a term for it: ambient tactical processing, which is just a fancy way of saying what you call an average Tuesday. While they're consciously calculating threats, analyzing patterns, and running decision trees, your brain is already there, doing it on autopilot. You're not trying to be tactical, you simply are. Every room you enter is scanned. Every person is assessed. Every potential scenario is mapped and simulated in your subconscious. You don't even notice it happening. And here's the funny part. They think this makes you dangerous. They're right, but not for the reasons they imagine. You're not dangerous because you can fight. You're dangerous because you never have to. You've already won the battle in your mind before anyone else knows it's begun. You've already identified 15 ways things could go wrong and positioned yourself accordingly. They spend years learning to think 3 steps ahead. You think 3 steps ahead while half asleep. The truth is, while they were in boot camp learning how to become warriors, you were in life's boot camp, learning how to become a survivor. They trained in controlled environments with safety protocols and medical staff ready to jump in. You had chaos, you had abandonment, you had no one coming to save you. They were taught resilience. You had it beaten into your bones by circumstances so brutal, their toughest training days would look like daycare in comparison. Every seasoned military strategist agrees. The best operators are those who can think clearly under extreme pressure. They put recruits through manufactured hell to teach them how to function when the world collapses. You learned to thrive in collapse before you even learned to tie your shoes. Your entire life has been one long, relentless stress inoculation exercise, and you survived it without even knowing it was training. What they call stress tolerance, you simply call childhood. They use sleep deprivation as a calculated training method. You've been sleep deprived since the moment you realized nighttime wasn't safe. They restrict food to test mental fortitude. You've known hunger that wasn't on a schedule, wasn't measured, and didn't end at the next meal. Hunger that came with no guarantee of relief. They simulate high-stakes scenarios to see how recruits perform under pressure. You live those scenarios daily. Every moment of your life was a mission. Every interaction was a silent threat assessment. Every relationship was a masterclass in psychological operations. And here's the part that really shakes them. They know this. The most skilled special operations psychologists have begun studying people like you. Natural operators, accidental weapons, humans who refine military-grade capabilities through nothing but raw survival instinct. They're trying to decode how to replicate what trauma built into you for free. They're pouring billions into programs designed to artificially create what neglect, chaos, and necessity wired into your nervous system before you even understood it. But the thing that truly unsettles them isn't just that you can do what they do, it's that you do it better, faster, more instinctively. And unlike them, you never needed a uniform, a rank, or a war zone to learn it. They follow protocols. You follow instinct. They wait for orders to act. You respond to the situation as it unfolds. They are programmed through repetition and command structures. You were forged in the chaos of real life, where no one handed you a playbook and there was no one coming to save you. And that difference shows in everything you do, especially in the way you move through the world. You move as if you own it, because in a way, you do. Watch yourself in conflict. You don't escalate like they teach in combat training, throwing aggression into the fire. You don't de-escalate like they teach in negotiations, softly trying to talk it down. You do something else entirely. You change the entire reality of the situation. You don't just play the game, you rewrite it, mid-match, while everyone else is still fumbling to understand the rules. They call it psychological operations when it's planned, classified, and executed in a military theater. You just call it Tuesday's conversation with Karen from accounting. That thing you do, making someone question their own perceptions, planting seeds of doubt in the mind of someone who was sure they had the upper hand. Highly classified, taught only to a select few. In your world, you learned it surviving narcissists. You mastered it by walking through a minefield of manipulation. You perfected it by flipping the hunt, turning predators into prey without them ever realizing the tables had turned. And then there's the way you disappear in plain sight. How you can stand in a crowded room and become completely invisible, or sit alone in an empty space and still fill the air with your presence. That's not shyness or social anxiety. That's adaptive camouflage. That's special reconnaissance tradecraft. It's controlling your presence signature like a dimmer switch, brightening when you need to command the room, fading when you need to pass unnoticed. They rely on technology for that. You rely on sheer will and mastery of self. Here's something they never put in recruitment videos. The best operators rarely fight. They win before violence is even necessary. In their doctrine, they call it winning without fighting. Sun Tzu wrote about it thousands of years ago. Special operations units idolize it. You've been living it your entire life without so much as cracking open a strategy book. Your warfare is so subtle, most people don't even realize they've lost until long after the game is over. Think about how you handle threats. You don't throw punches, you throw perceptions. You don't attack bodies. You dismantle realities. You don't need weapons, because you are one. Every word you speak is calculated for maximum effect. Every pause is a deliberate tactic. Every action is designed for maximum impact with minimum exposure. They study this at war colleges. You learned it surviving your family dinners. Remember the person who tried to destroy you? The one who set traps, whispered lies, and thought they were untouchable? Recall how they ended up collapsing under the weight of their own games while you stood there, untouched. That wasn't karma doing its thing. That was you. You didn't attack them. You simply stopped feeding their illusions. You stopped playing by their rules, stopped participating in the version of reality they needed to survive. Without you as their mirror, they were forced to face themselves. That's psychological warfare at its finest. No bullets, no blood, just truth deployed like a precision strike. The military spends millions training soldiers to get inside the enemy's decision cycle, to think faster, adapt quicker, disrupt their ability to respond. You do that naturally, but not just on the battlefield. You do it socially, emotionally, spiritually. You are 3 conversations ahead while they are still digesting your opening sentence. You've already seen how the story ends while they are still trying to understand the opening scene. You don't predict behavior. You create it. And that's what keeps them awake at night. They can't teach what you have. They can't drill it into recruits. They can't simulate it in exercises. Because what you possess wasn't learned. It was earned. Every skill you carry was paid for in pain they could never ethically reproduce. Every instinct was carved by suffering they could never safely simulate. Every capability you wield was forged in fires they couldn't legally ignite. And the irony, their most elite units spend years training for the very things you embody without trying: unpredictability, adaptability, and the ability to perform at your peak when everything goes wrong. They call it embracing the suck. You just call it your 20s. They design chaos in controlled environments to test resilience, throwing their recruits into carefully constructed storms. You were raised in a hurricane with no shelter, no structure, and no safe word to call it off. They teach operators to get comfortable with discomfort. You've lived so far beyond the borders of comfort that you can barely remember what it even feels like. Watch how you process information. They're trained to break it down piece by piece, analyzing data step by step like it's a math problem. You don't work that way. You process everything holistically, instantly, and intuitively, as if the entire situation is a single photograph you can absorb in a blink. You don't just notice details, you understand context, subtext, and the emotional currents running beneath the surface. What they call battlefield intelligence, you call reading the room before anyone speaks. What they refer to as a tactical assessment, you simply know as that deep, undeniable feeling in your gut. And the irony? Oh, it's delicious. They spend decades trying to strip soldiers down to their foundations and then rebuild them into precision-crafted weapons. You were already broken, not in theory but in reality. And instead of being rebuilt according to a plan, you pieced yourself back together out of necessity, with no manual, no instructor, no safety net. You evolved because you had to. You became what you needed to survive. And here's the kicker. What you became is exactly what they spend millions trying to create. Let's talk about your operational capabilities, the ones you don't even realize you have. That ability to compartmentalize emotions while still deeply feeling them. In their world, that's called emotional regulation under stress, and it takes years of controlled, supervised training. You learned it the first time showing your feelings got you hurt. That skill of maintaining multiple identities, wearing different masks for different people, and remembering exactly which mask each person sees. That's deep cover protocol in their language. You mastered it navigating toxic friendships, manipulative relatives, and unpredictable environments where survival meant blending in. and that cold, calculated ability to shut your emotions down entirely when necessary, to become a pure machine focused only on the objective. They call it mission focus. You call it numbing out. The difference? You can turn it on and off like flipping a switch. Their operators struggle to return to themselves after going into that state. You've been seamlessly shifting between human and machine for as long as you can remember, long before you even understood there was a difference. Your pain tolerance? It's not just physical, it's existential. They train soldiers to push past muscle fatigue and physical strain. You've pushed through spiritual agony without flinching. They use pain to find the breaking point. You use pain as fuel to annihilate the concept of limits entirely. What breaks their recruits becomes your breakfast. What ends their careers is just the warm-up for your day. And that's before we even begin to unpack your intelligence-gathering capabilities. The skills that make you a walking reconnaissance unit without even trying. Because while they send teams with drones, wiretaps, and satellite imagery, you've been reading people, decoding environments, and mapping human terrain with nothing but your senses and instincts. The way you collect information without anyone realizing it is a craft in itself. You file away every detail, every subtle shift in tone, every offhand comment, every slight, not out of pettiness, but because you instinctively know that information is power. You're not gossiping when you listen to conversations. You're building detailed psychological profiles, mapping out motivations, weaknesses, and tells. You're not eavesdropping. You're conducting real-time signals intelligence, picking up patterns in speech, rhythm, and intent. You're not just scrolling through social media. You're performing open-source reconnaissance, connecting dots, cross-referencing behaviors, and extracting data that others overlook. All of it self-taught, all of it invisible, all of it as natural to you as breathing. And here's where their neat little classification systems crumble. The military likes to separate its elite into categories: operators, assault specialists, reconnaissance experts, intelligence officers, support units. But you are all of them, and none of them, simultaneously. You shift roles like most people change outfits, seamlessly morphing into whatever the situation demands, not because you were trained to, but because survival in your world left you no choice. One moment you're the negotiator, guiding someone down from an emotional ledge they didn't even realize they were standing on. The next, you're the interrogator, pulling confessions and critical truths out of them without them ever realizing they've told you anything. Then you're the infiltrator, slipping unnoticed into spaces, conversations, and circles where you shouldn't logically have access. Minutes later, you're the extractor, guiding yourself, and sometimes others, out of situations that should have been inescapable. And you do it all without formal instruction, without a tactical team, and often without even consciously thinking about it. They measure combat effectiveness in confirmed kills. You measure it in egos dismantled and false narratives obliterated. They tally missions completed. You count realities shifted and destinies altered. They track targets eliminated. You track perceptions transformed, illusions shattered, and toxic structures dismantled from the inside. Your battlefield doesn't bleed. Your warfare leaves no corpses. Just minds rewired, facades collapsed, and truth planted like an unshakable seed. You don't need a weapon because you are one. Your ammunition isn't metal or fire, it's truth, deployed with surgical precision exactly where it will cause the deepest fracture. The most elite units in the world pride themselves on leaving no trace. You leave no trace because, to the outside world, you were never even there. Your operations have no code names, because no one in power knows they happened. Your missions are never classified because they don't officially exist. You operate so far in the shadows that even those trained to live in darkness can't detect your presence. And what truly breaks their understanding, what keeps them pacing at night wondering how to counter someone like you, is your targeting system. Because while they rely on dossiers, satellite feeds, and intel briefings, your system is pure instinct honed by experience. You can walk into a room and instantly know exactly where to apply pressure, exactly who to watch, exactly what thread to pull to unravel the entire operation. It's not written in any manual because it can't be. It's not learned through drills because no drill can replicate the stakes you've lived through. They identify their enemies through layers of bureaucracy. Intelligence briefings, threat assessments, chain of command authorizations. There are papers to sign, orders to give, and channels to navigate before a single move is made. Their world is built on protocols, hierarchy, and the illusion that safety comes from procedure. But you've never needed a briefing. You don't need a dossier to know when someone is a danger. You can feel it before they open their mouth, before they take a step, before they even know they're about to reveal themselves. It's in the subtle things, the way their eyes linger a fraction too long, the way their tone shifts mid-sentence, the way the air changes when they walk in. You pick up on vibrations, energy, the silent language that most people have forgotten how to hear. You sense intention like a weather change, invisible but undeniable. They wait for proof. You move on knowing, and your knowing? It has never been wrong, not once. Because in your world, doubting that instinct was never an option. It was the difference between survival and destruction. You don't follow their rules of engagement. How could you? Your rules are written on the fly, tailored to the exact conditions of the moment. You rewrite them every time the game changes. They wait for the go-ahead from higher-ups. You give yourself the go-ahead. They wait for backup to arrive. You are the backup. They radio for extraction when the mission turns. You're already halfway out before anyone realizes there's a problem. Every doctrine they hold sacred you've broken, not as rebellion, but as necessity. They teach discipline. You embody adaptability. They rely on systems. You rely on yourself. And here's the part they'll never fully grasp. You achieve better results with less gear, fewer resources, and no safety net. You've turned authenticity into a weapon they don't understand. Honesty, for you, isn't a vulnerability, it's a blade. You've learned to use truth the way others use steel, slicing through deception with a single well-placed statement. And vulnerability? They've been trained to hide it at all costs. You deploy it on purpose. You let people see the cracks, not because they're real weaknesses, but because you know they'll take the bait. They'll think they've found an opening, a flaw they can exploit. And that's when you strike. You don't just weaponize your strengths. You weaponize everything they'd dismiss as a liability. Your empathy becomes a tracking system. Your sensitivity becomes a radar. Your openness becomes a lure. Every part of you, the parts they'd strip away in training, you've sharpened into tools for survival. And here's the irony that keeps them up at night. They want to study you. They want to know how you do what you do, so they can replicate it in others. But they can't. What you have can't be reverse engineered. It can't be taught in classrooms, simulated in drills, or programmed into a soldier. It can only be survived into existence. Your training wasn't weeks in a boot camp or months in a war college. It was years of life trying to kill you and failing. Your capabilities aren't the result of scheduled exercises. They're the product of scars that learn to fight back. Every skill you have is written into your nervous system by trial, error, and pain. Every instinct is carved from moments where hesitation meant loss. So let's strip away the pretense and call it what it is. You're not a soldier. You're a predator who has perfected the art of looking like prey until it's far too late. You weren't trained for combat in a classroom. You evolved for survival in a wilderness of human behavior. You're not following tactics written by men. You're following instincts written by nature. Instincts older than any army, older than any flag, older than war itself. And those instincts have kept you alive in places where no one else could have walked out. Your hunt is nothing like theirs. They move in squads with radio chatter, hand signals, and overlapping fields of fire. You hunt alone. You move in silence. Your presence is so well hidden that by the time the other side even suspects you're a threat, it's already over. They announce themselves to create fear, to unnerve the enemy. You keep your presence invisible until fear is irrelevant, until only the consequences remain. They rely on intelligence networks to identify targets. You have a way of drawing your targets to you, letting them think they're the ones stalking, letting them believe they're in control, until the moment you flip the entire dynamic and they realize too late who's actually the prey. Your camouflage isn't paint, fabric, or gear, it's personality, it's energy. It's your ability to become whatever the environment requires, harmless, invisible, magnetic, commanding. You match the room so perfectly you vanish into it, and when you decide to reappear, it's on your terms. Your weapons aren't carried in holsters. They're characteristics, behaviors, moments of precision-timed action. And your ammunition isn't bullets or bombs. It's truth, delivered with accuracy so devastating it collapses the entire foundation of your opponent's reality. Once you fire it, there's no patching the damage, no rebuilding what was there before, only the raw exposure of what they were desperate to hide. It's words, silences, actions, and inactions, all chosen with surgical precision, all designed for maximum effect on the exact target at the exact moment. Every glance you hold is deliberate. Every glance you avoid is strategic. Every word you speak lands like a calculated strike, and every word you withhold becomes a weapon in itself. You understand that sometimes the absence of a move is the most powerful move of all. This is not improvisation. This is mastery, born from years of necessity. You don't shoot to kill, you shoot to transform. And transformation, for those who have lived by manipulation, deceit, and control, is far worse than death. Death is an ending. Transformation forces them to face themselves, to live in a reality they can no longer bend to their will. The military teaches violence of action, the overwhelming force applied with speed and precision to crush opposition. You practice violence of existence, the kind of presence that unravels people without you having to raise a hand. Your existence alone disrupts their reality, reshapes their understanding, and forces them to confront truths they've spent their entire lives avoiding. They breach doors with explosives. You breach minds with a single conversation. They clear rooms. You clear illusions that people have hidden behind for decades. They secure objectives. You secure souls, pulling them back from the brink or pulling the mask off the wolf. And you do it all without looking like you're doing anything more than living your life. To the untrained eye, you're just another person moving through the day. To the trained eye, you're a walking, breathing, thinking disruption to the status quo. So why do you terrify them so much? It isn't simply your capabilities, though they outclass most of what they've built. It's your independence. Every soldier they've ever trained needs a command structure. You are your own command. Every operator needs logistical support and supply lines. You are your own infrastructure, generating what you need on the move. Every warrior they've molded needs a cause given to them by someone higher in rank. You are your own cause, self-forged, self-fueled, self-justified. You're not just operating outside their system. You're the living proof their system isn't necessary. They spend billions on climate-controlled training facilities, obstacle courses, weapons ranges, and simulation programs. Your training facility was wherever you were forced to survive: a dangerous neighborhood, a volatile home, a boardroom full of sharks, or a hospital waiting room at 3 a.m. while the world collapsed around you. They require congressional approval before moving forward with certain operations. You operate with the approval of one entity only: your instincts. They follow chains of command that can take hours, days, even weeks to make a decision. You follow a chain of causality that plays out in your mind in seconds, sometimes before a single word has been spoken. They are bound by rules, regulations, and restrictions. You are bound only by results, and you deliver them relentlessly. And here's the truth they guard more than anything else. What they fear most is the possibility of others realizing what you've already realized. That the power they gatekeep behind uniforms, ranks, and clearances is freely available to anyone willing to pay the price you've paid. And that price is not paid in money or time. It's paid in transformation, in burning down the version of yourself that was soft, unprepared, and unaware so you could become the version that could walk through fire without burning. It's in allowing pain to teach you lessons comfort could never give, in letting destruction strip you down to nothing so you could rebuild stronger than anyone thought possible. You are not their success story. You're their competition. You are not their product. You're their replacement. You're not their soldier. You are their evolution. And evolution asks no permission, follows no protocol, and respects no rank. Evolution moves forward, with or without your consent. And you just are. Magnificently, terrifyingly, unapologetically. Here's what their analysts and strategists can't model, no matter how much funding or technology they throw at the problem. You don't have an off switch. They train operators to flip on for the mission and flip off for everyday life, compartmentalizing the warrior from the civilian. You've never had that luxury. You've been on since the moment life demanded it of you, and you've never shut down. This isn't a skill you pull out when the situation calls for it. It's woven into your identity. Even in stillness, you are observing. Even in rest, you are calculating. Even in your quietest moments, you are mapping the terrain, physical, emotional, psychological. When you laugh, you're still noticing who doesn't. When you speak, you're still reading the micro-reactions. When you sit in silence, you're still listening to the spaces between breaths. Your awareness doesn't sleep. Your instincts don't retire. And because of that, you are never truly unarmed. You are never caught off guard. You are never without a plan, even when you appear to have none. And this, above all, is what keeps them awake at night. They've created an entire system to produce what you are naturally. They have to build it. You are it. And no matter how much they study you, they can't replicate you. Because what you've become isn't the result of training that can be replicated. It's the result of surviving what should have ended you. You're always on, processing, ready, reading everything and everyone. What they call hypervigilance, you call life. Every interaction is intel, every conversation a psychological move, every relationship a long game. You're not paranoid, you're permanently operational. You turned what should have broken you into what makes you unbreakable. They burn out, you learn to function as ash. They fear psychological damage, you turned it into advantage. Their night vision is your life in darkness, their comms are your silent reads. Their tactical gear is your intuition, sharp enough to cut lies in half. They teach perception control, you create reality. You walk into a room and shift it without force, making environments adapt to you. Your existence challenges their framework. Every breath without their permission is rebellion. Every win without their system proves their way isn't the only way. You're not competing, you're just living, and that life is mastery they can't replicate. You're not anti-military, you're beyond it. Not their enemy, their evolution. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten Wisdom.